Jedis for Jesus, and today I have 5 videos to show you of proof of the craziness that's going on. There's so much information out there, they are hiding it. Hopefully I could go ahead and get this on this platform and be able to watch this, and if not, then I'll just have to go and put it on the other platform. But I'm going to try to put it here, and hopefully it works.
Vaxxers and conspiracy theorists have been slammed for refusing to have the coronavirus vaccine when it becomes available in Australia. While the Prime Minister's accepted it will be hard to make it mandatory, there are increasing calls for there to be consequences for those who refuse the jab. The government has warned it won't rule out strict measures for those who do not comply. It's a hot topic this morning. To discuss it, I'm joined by 7 News political editor Mark Riley and journalist Louise Roberts. Morning to both of you. Mark,
good morning.
Do you think the federal government will follow through on these threats?
Good morning, Nat. Good morning, Louise. I think it probably will. I mean, Scott Morrison yesterday in a couple of interviews said, don't forget I'm the Minister of no jab, no play, and that requirement was brought in by a lot of the states in childcare centres and in schools. So there are things the government can do legally. There's a collision here between the rights of the individual and the rights of the community, but the law has deferred in favour of the community in some celebrated cases. So the government can do something. Maybe, no jab, no job keeper, no jab, no job seeker. Would that work? Who knows? But look, the bigger problem here though, Nat, is a question of moral and intellectual equivalence. This is what the anti-vaxxers want. They want a debate where their Fruit Loop ideas are given the same elevation as science, and we shouldn't give them that.
Yeah. Are they being un-Australian, Louise? Did it help yesterday with the messaging that, Scott Morrison, did this massive media campaign, and then the company that he was talking about came out and sort of had to clarify a few things and say it was actually a letter of intent, it wasn't actually a deal?
Look, I think the vaccine will go ahead. It's what we've, give or take some of the fine print that obviously has to be ironed out at this point. But it's what we've all been waiting for. I mean, this whole pandemic has been marked by a real feeling of helplessness that we need a vaccine in order to get on with our lives, but also a sense of we're all in this together. That's why we all need to have this vaccine, because in order to get herd immunity, 95% of us need to have it, unless you have a legitimate medical reason not to have the vaccine. And to my mind, that's the only reason why you should refuse it.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other idea that's really important here is the responsibility on big media companies. By that I mean those big media companies who say they aren't big media companies. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all these social media platforms. When all these nutcase theories are being propagated on their platforms, they should pull them down. If they can pull down tweets from the President of the United States, they can pull down this gumph, and they should.
Well, the amount of things that go around Facebook every day, and you can hear it come out at every barbecue, at every dinner party. It's sprouted.
Yes.
I know. It's repeated back to you.
People can be worried about these things, and people who maybe haven't read deeply into it can be persuaded by it. So, I mean, there's a real responsibility for this sort of stuff. I read stuff last night about vaccines being a front for injecting silicon chips into people's bodies so governments can trace them. I mean, really, this sort of stuff should not be allowed to be put onto social media, because it does persuade people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Whether you're watching on your smart device or your computer, please, on the bottom, go ahead and leave a comment. It really helps out our YouTube channel. Thank you. Subscribe, give a thumbs up, and hit the bell. Thank you. And here's the next video. Hope you enjoyed that last video.
Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Alberta Health Services and the local RCMP were in attendance at the church, as the church tells me, on this past Good Friday. However, today and on Friday, officials did not try to enter the church or come onto church property. It's another capacity crowd here at Grace Life Church west of Edmonton for Easter Sunday services. Now, Grace Life Church has been the focal point in the fight for religious freedom in the face of the COVID lockdown restrictions on churches that limit places of worship to just 15% of fire code capacity, and also force congregants and parishioners into masks and to social distance from one another. The pastor here, Pastor James Coates, is recently off a 35-day stay in provincial custody for violating the public health orders on worship services. While Pastor Coates was gone, Pastor Jake Spence preached also to capacity crowds here at the church where no one wore masks or social distance, and it was wonderfully normal and perfectly healthy. Alberta Health Services and the local RCMP were in attendance at the church, as they were, as the church tells me, on this past Good Friday. However, today and on Friday, officials did not try to enter the church or come onto church property, and they left before noon, I suppose, having learned a lesson from last week when church elders made authorities follow the law and kept them out of the church. Take a look at what happened here at Grace Life last week.
Any amount, if there's more than 93 vehicles in this parking lot, the vehicles don't drive themselves, so therefore it's reasonable to assume that there's 93 people minimum.
Again, we can't assume.
So at the end of the day, the Public Health Act says we have access to go in the building. If you don't want us to go in the building, that's fine, but you're accepting the fact you're denying us access to the building. Okay? So if you deny access to the building, there's potential for criminal charges or potential for additional charges.
Yeah.
So that being said, we're going to respect the fact that you guys don't want us to go to the church. We're not going to go into the church.
Okay.
We're going to stay outside and we'll observe the numbers as they come.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? So then there's no further interaction.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Are you satisfied with that?
Very much so, yeah. If you can observe from outside.
Now, in Canada, interrupting or disrupting a church service breaks Section 176(2) of the Criminal Code of Canada, and the elders at Grace Life put on a bit of a clinic last Sunday for how other churches should deal with the police. Firm, polite, but righteous and Christian. Now, the media showed up today with at least 4 security guards for just a handful of journalists. It was a weird show of force given that this church is so committed to peaceful resistance to a bad law that their pastor turned himself in to authorities February 16th to serve the aforementioned 35 days in jail. They're clearly not violent here. Today's Sunday sermon was preached by Pastor Mike Hovland from Grace Bible Fellowship in Lacrete, Alberta. Now, that's the sister church to Grace Life, and it's in northern Alberta. Now, that church, too, has been fully open without adhering to Alberta government restrictions on churches. However, today, Pastor James was in attendance with his family. Now, there were some, I would describe as Westboro Baptist type protesters who came to protest this church on Easter Sunday from across the road where all the mainstream media journalists are kept off of church property. These Westboro Baptist types held signs that read, "Spread kindness, not COVID," and "What would Jesus do? Hang out in a cohort of 12. I mean, who wants to tell them that that also means that 12 apostles and Jesus would have all received a lockdown ticket from the Romans for breaking the Alberta current public health rules for gathering in a group larger than 10? I mean, I think that's still $3,600 to have the Last Supper. And asking what Jesus would do at a church trying to do exactly what Jesus would do is a bit of a bad idea if you really don't want an answer to that question, because when someone from the church crossed the street to try to tell these protesters what Jesus would indeed do, well, those Westboro Baptist types ran away, and from what I understand, they did burst into tears. Frankly, I pity them because I wish they had people in their lives who cared enough about them to tell them that protesting Christians on the most important day in Christianity is a bit of a terrible look. Grace Life here remains one of the most important places in all of Alberta, maybe even Canada, and they're making a stand. They're risking a fine to stand up for this bizarre dictatorship we're all living under. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid.
I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope it makes you think. And here's that other video.
Words are blocked and fences are going up around Grace Life Church this morning. You heard me right. This morning, Grace Life Church, the church of Pastor James Coates. For those of you who don't know Pastor James Coates, he pastors a church in Edmonton, Alberta in Canada. He was recently released after spending a total of 34 days in jail for keeping his church open during the pandemic. Well, this morning, we witnessed the fencing up of his church building. So the RCMP, at the order of AHS, which is the Alberta Health Services, shut down Grace Life Church. They took this matter so seriously by even going the extra mile of hiring a private security firm to put fences up around the perimeter of the church. They even doubled the fence with 2 layers of fencing, one inner layer and one outer layer, to make sure that no one goes near that place or no one goes either in or out of the church. I mean, it looks like the church building is one of the most radioactive places on earth right now. No one can go near the property of the church. You'll immediately be asked to leave, escorted out, or even worse, get arrested for trespassing the Alberta authorities' property. So we thought that was the church's property, right? Well, right now, at this moment, as we are speaking, this does not look like the church's property. It looks like the Alberta Health Services property. It looks like they have authority to operate as a completely totalitarian entity towards churches, and more specifically towards Grace Life Church. So AHS, the Alberta Health Services, issued a statement that would justify their shutting down of the church. And it reads as follows. Today, April 7th, 2021, Alberta Health Services physically closed Grace Life Church and has prevented access to the building until JLC can demonstrate the ability to comply with Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health's restrictions. For several months, AHS has attempted to work collaboratively with JLC to address the ongoing public health concerns at the site. Steps taken prior to physically closing the site include, so those are the steps they've taken to prior closing down the church. An order issued by AHS on December 17th, 2020, requiring JLC to comply with CMOH restrictions. Number 2, a Court of Queen's Bench order obtained on January 21st, 2021, requiring JLC to comply with the previous order. Number 3, a closure order issued on January 29th, 2021, requiring closure until compliance with the restrictions was attained. On March 27, 2021, AHS sent a letter to Pastor Coates providing him with information on the continued spread of COVID-19. Last week, AHS invited Pastor Coates to meet virtually to discuss the risks presented by COVID-19. However, the church has not provided any dates to meet. JLC, Grace Life Church, has decided not to follow these mandatory restrictions, nor have they attempted to work with AHS to reduce the risk of COVID-19 transmission, with COVID-19 cases increasing and the more easily transmitted and potentially more severe variants becoming dominant, and so on and so forth. Towards the end of that section, they said, from July 10th, 2020 to April 6th, 2021, AHS has received 105 complaints from the public about JLC. AHS inspectors have conducted 18 inspections at the site since July 10th, 2020, and violations were observed at each visit. So they decided to close the church down. Now, there is one key takeaway you guys need to pay attention to. When they say on that line, GLC has decided not to follow these mandatory restrictions, nor have they attempted to work with AHS to reduce the risk of COVID-19 transmission. Now, you have to understand, the church issued prior to all of this happening a report stating that no one in the church during that whole period of time from July 10th to April 2021 has contracted COVID-19 or had any health issues related to COVID-19. They only had one person that died in the church. That person died because of the lockdown restrictions that the Alberta authorities imposed on the people. That person was a cancer patient and they could not get, because of those lockdowns, to their chemotherapy session. So to me, it seems very hypocritical that they would say that the church never worked with them to reduce transmission, when the church in fact stated that none of their congregants actually had an issue related to COVID. So first, they jailed Pastor James Coates for 34 days. Second, they fined him $1,500 after serving 34 days. They intimidated the congregation for weeks, and now this. Whatever utopian reality dream Canadians had of freedom, they should definitely start to kiss it goodbye. And I believe that America is next in line. And it doesn't really matter if your health restrictions really make sense, right? Well, as long as we do what we tell you to do based on the authority that we have, independently from the right you have to assemble and worship and do whatever you have to do under constitutional Canadian Canadian law. So I guess this is all out the window. So what we have to do right now is continue to pray for Pastor James Coates and continue to pray for Grace Life Church. The authorities may have closed down and shut down the building, but they have not closed the church. In the end, the light will always win. Well, there you have it, guys. There you have it, guys. When I get more updates, I'll update you what's going on with the church and what's going on with everything. And the footage that I'm sharing with you, it's from a Facebook page called The Angry Albertan. And I can understand why the Albertans would be angry, right? So, yeah, share this video with a friend and keep on praying for Pastor James Coates. Keep praying for Grace Life Church. With love in Christ, John Henry with the Gospel of Christ.
If you're still here, got 2 more videos for you, and I appreciate you watching this long.
Unbelievable video. We have been looking for fighters, for people that have courage. This pastor in Canada told the, let's just call it the Gestapo, his words, not mine, to go take a hike when they showed up at his church and tried to shut him down under arbitrarily enforced health codes. And my goodness, this pastor is a hero. Enjoy and see how the police and the authoritarians respond and they go away. We need thousands of pastors like this. This guy's a Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Enjoy.
Please get out. Get out of this property. Immediately get out. Get out of this property immediately. Out. I don't want to hear anything. Out of this property immediately. I don't want to hear a word. Out. Out! Out of this property immediately until you come back with a warrant. Out! 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 Out of this property immediately out! Immediately go out and don't come back. I don't want to talk to you. Not a word. Out of this property immediately out. I don't care what you have to say. Out! Out! Out of this property, you Nazis! Out! Out! Gestapo is not allowed here. Immediately, Gestapo is not allowed. Out! Do you understand English? Get out of this property. Go. So go. Go. And don't come back without the warrant. Out, Nazi. Out. Out. You understand? Nazis are not welcome here. Out. And don't come back without the warrant. Do not come back without the warrant. You understand that? You're not welcome here. Nazis are not welcome here. Gestapo is not welcome here. Do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths. Unbelievable, sick, evil people. Intimidating people in a church during the Passover. You Gestapo, Nazi, communists, fascists. Don't you dare coming back here. Can you imagine those psychopaths? Passover, the holiest Christian festival in a year, and they're coming to intimidate Christians during the holiest festival? Unbelievable. What is wrong with those sick psychopaths? It's beyond me.
Unbelievable, everybody. I just love seeing the police just walk in submission. We must stand up against tyranny, stand up against despotism. Now is our time to contest for liberty. This pastor is a hero. Make sure you subscribe to The Charlie Kirk Show and share this video with your friends. If your pastor doesn't have this kind of a spine, find a new church.
As the shirt says, I'm surviving World War III. We are in World War III, and look at the craziness that's going on around the world. Here's another video.
Oh, they got a whole bunch of us. Start filming. They got 3 cops, 4 cop cars, 1 paddy wagon.
Well, it looks like the police is catching us after the church service in the middle of the road. They waited with AHS.
And here they are behind. So we'll see what is about to happen. Freedom in Canada, democracy in Canada, full force, unbelievable. The gangsters are here.
So, as per the injunction that was served on Arthur here and David back here, I am to place both of them under arrest for breaching the Queen's Bench order.
Both of us under arrest?
Yes, sir. Would you please step out of the car?
What's your name, officer?
Andrews, 5244.
Okay.
So how do you feel being a Nazi now? And then we got a gangster here. How do you wanna be Gestapo?
What's his officer? What's your name and number?
Sorry?
What's your name and number, please?
5283, Constable Garwood.
How can you look in your mirror, man?
I have advised both you and Mr. Pulaski over there that you guys are both under arrest. Please, if you would,
Dave,
step
can
out of
you
the vehicle.
hold this?
Slide.
Sure.
Record this. Open the door, man. Whoa! Oh. Stop!
This is Jedis for Jesus. Hope to see you one day in heaven soon.